So, free agency in 2020, much like any year, has its winners and its losers. But this year, I think it's interesting to look at who are the winners and losers and why they are the winners and losers because it's a little bit different than in past years. So, what we're going to do is break down the winners and losers of free agency and talk reckless about Bill O'Brien. All right, so I'm going to start off with the winners, and the first winner in the 2020 free agency period is Ryan Tannehill. This is because Ryan Tannehill, before he started those games in Tennessee, was on his way out the league, on to his second team where he was struggling to find a role as a backup on a one-year deal. You can easily see that deal expiring, and then Ryan Tannehill just becoming another one of those guys that bounce around the league a ton that, never really get another chance to be the face of another team. But lo and behold, he got in there, played really well, but more importantly, had a good playoff run. Beat, I think, the Patriots and the Ravens, the two teams that people were convinced were going to be in the Super Bowl out the AFC other than the Kansas City Chiefs. And lo and behold, he is a completely different prospect. He's a completely different human being. He went from somebody who was looking on being out of the NFL if they weren't careful to somebody who just signed a 4-year, $118 million contract, and you can't really be mad at that. The second winner in 2020 free agency is Tyrod Taylor. Now, this is a huge asterisk next to it because Tyrod Taylor could get replaced by Cam Newton in 1 second because Cam Newton, as of recording this video, is now a free agent. But I think Tyrod Taylor is often one of the most overlooked and underutilized guys. Even when he was playing at a really good level, technically a Pro Bowl level, he got disrespected in Buffalo by being benched for Nathan Peterman, who might be one of the worst modern quarterbacks to ever play. And then in Cleveland, when he got there, he got put in a situation where Baker Mayfield was the number 1 overall pick, and the momentum to start him just became overwhelming. He really never got a chance to get his foot in the ground in Cleveland. And, the debate is he probably shouldn't have because Baker Mayfield was the number 1 overall pick. So just unfortunate situation after unfortunate situation. He goes to San Diego, LA, the Chargers to back up Phillip Rivers. That is what it is. The Chargers didn't really have a great season this year. They let go of Phillip Rivers, and lo and behold, it looks like they're finally going to give Tyrod Taylor a shot, and I think he's going to do well. Tyrod Taylor is a good quarterback. He's a lot better than some of the mediocre quarterbacks that people are talking about on networks all day long. Nick Foles, I would take Tyrod Taylor over Nick Foles any day of the week. But somehow Tyrod Taylor is in a situation where he's doubted more than Nick Foles, even though Tyrod Taylor has done more than Nick Foles has in a regular season capacity. I understand Nick Foles had maybe one good season in 2013, and then he had the playoff run. But if you look at Tyrod Taylor's career, it's better. So I'm happy that he's getting the chance here. My third winner is the AFC East. Why? Because this thing is wide open now. It's literally open for anybody to take because the Patriots don't have Tom Brady anymore. They don't have a lot of players that they had that were critical on the defensive side of the ball too, but we'll get to them later. They just kind of, if you look at that roster, no Tom Brady, no Kyle Van Noy, no Jamie Collins, no Danny Shelton, no what is really scaring you from that roster? And honestly, from a roster standpoint, what separates them from the Jets or the Dolphins at this point, or even the Buffalo Bills? So the AFC East is wide open for literally anybody to take it. The Bills and Jets have their young QBs who they hope are the future. The Miami Dolphins were ultra aggressive in free agency. The slope to get to the top of the AFC East has flattened tremendously. So for every other team not named the Patriots in the AFC East, you are a winner because even if you sucked in free agency, you have a much better chance of winning that division this year than you did last year. And then my other winner in free agency is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. Why? Because this is the Bengals' time to actually spend some money to shut some people up. And they did it. They signed DJ Reader from the defensive tackle from the Texans. They signed Trey Waynes, and they spent almost, I think, over $100 million in total in free agency. Nobody in the media saw that one coming, right? Everybody swore to me when I made the video about how the Bengals are kind of being dragged through the mud right now. They don't deserve it. Everybody swore to me that the Bengals are cheap. Just wait till free agency. You'll see how cheap they are. They won't surround anybody. I'll let A.J. Green go. Well, they retained A.J. Green. They got DJ Reader. They got Trey Waynes. And you look at that roster that's going to be surrounding Joe Burrow, and let's be honest here. If Joe Burrow and Jonah Williams are who people project them to be, that Bengals team is going to be a real problem for the AFC North. So keep your eye on them. They won this free agency, and they're going to win in the draft because they're going to get Joe Burrow. So they have had an excellent free agency. Another guy that I think is a winner, and this is just a guy I want to mention because I think a lot of people have a lot of love for him, Carl Nassib. Carl Nassib got cut from the Browns 2 years ago when they were on Hard Knocks, I believe, still. And it looked like maybe his future was in the balance. Maybe he didn't have a career anymore. But, Carl Nassib rebounded, and now he signed a 3-year, $25 million deal with $17 million guaranteed for the Las Vegas Raiders. That's job security. That means that Carl Nassib is going to become a veteran. And it also means that Carl Nassib probably should have never been cut by the Browns in the first place. And I do believe that was a John Dorsey decision. And a lot of John Dorsey's decisions on the defensive line have been horrendous if we actually look at them. He has not made good decisions along the lines. Great decisions when it comes to corners, linebackers, and skill players, yes. But when it comes to the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, he has made some pretty bad decisions. The one player that's worth any salt on the defensive line is Myles Garrett, and John Dorsey didn't draft Myles Garrett. So, if you look at who is responsible for the Browns line not being a mess, if you look at who is actually good on the Browns offensive line, you're not going to see very many, if any, connections to John Dorsey. Just saying. So that's kind of a Carl Nassib winner, but John Dorsey kind of lost. And on top of all that, let's go to my other winner, which is the Cleveland Browns / Andrew Berry. Andrew Berry needed a win this free agency period, but he needed to do it in a much different way than John Dorsey did it last year. John Dorsey was just able to bring in big name after big name. That approach would not have been an approach that would have went over well this offseason, with the Browns already doing that and that failing last year. So Andrew Berry needs to make good, smart decisions, bring in people at the right positions, at the right money, with the right years. It's a more difficult job at his hands than it was for John Dorsey last year, because John Dorsey, he didn't have to worry about the cap. He could just bring everybody in. So with that difficult task at hand, he did a pretty good job. Austin Hooper, decent money. You're talking $14 million a year for a tight end, which is higher, but it's not ridiculous. Yeah, Jack Conklin on what I think is a steal of a deal for 3 years, a front-loaded $22 million contract. But by the time you have to re-sign Myles Garrett or Baker Mayfield, that contract's down to single-digit salary hits. That's really good. That's insanely good. Then you talk about the other things they did, Andrew Billings. And they just had a lot of smart signings, Case Keenum, and they continued to do that. Smart short-term signings. It's really what the Browns needed. It showed an approach that demonstrated that there's an adult in the room. And as ridiculous as that sounds for me to be talking about an NFL team and them being considered a winner, that's honestly what the Browns needed all last season, was there to be an adult in the room and a real unified direction from personnel to coaching. And it looks like from the signings that is there. So that means good things for the Cleveland Browns. So let's talk about the losers in free agency, and there are quite a few. The first losers are the Chicago Bears, because what were they doing this offseason? They went into this offseason, they wanted to at least provide competition for Mitchell Trubisky. Okay, that's fair. Okay, Mitchell Trubisky's not that good. So at least bring in competition. If not, Get Mitchell Trubisky out of there was the goal. Okay, so they go out, they try to get Teddy Bridgewater. Strike out with Teddy Bridgewater. Why did they strike out with Teddy Bridgewater? Well, Teddy Bridgewater wanted too much money. We weren't going to give him that much money. We want somebody to compete with Mitchell Trubisky. We were not willing to give up that much money. Okay, cool. That's your reasoning. So why did you go and trade for a more expensive quarterback and more mediocre quarterback in Nick Foles? Does that make any sense? Chicago Bears fans, let me know in the comment section. Does that make any sense? Any sense? They didn't want Teddy Bridgewater, who's actually not mediocre because he was too expensive, but he signed for less money than what you got when you traded for Nick Foles. What is going on? What is going on? So to surmise what they did with their quarterback situation, they went in to replace their mediocre quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky. And what they did was sign a less accomplished than Teddy Bridgewater, a less than competent quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater, in Nick Foles, who is also more expensive. None of that makes any sense. He is a slower, mediocre version of Mitchell Trubisky, who you already had on the roster. I don't understand what the Bears are doing at the quarterback position. The second loser is Bill Belichick. Kind of. This can change at a moment's notice. He could sign Cam Newton and return him. I'm not counting out Bill yet, but I'm just looking at what it looks like right now. And what it looks like right now is a quarterback room full of Browns rejects. Brian Hoyer, Cody Kessler. At best, you got Jarrett Stidham, third-round pick, dude who wasn't really a standout at Auburn. But, you know, some people think he has great upside, but he ain't there yet. He ain't even Jimmy Garoppolo. And then, on top of that, you lose Calvin Noy, you lose Jamie Collins, you lose Danny Shelton, you lose a lot of the pieces that made this defense special last year, and you have no quarterback, no running game. Who's the player on offense that's going to carry the New England Patriots? What do they have? Right now, they got nothing. And I understand they got Bill Belichick, so that might change things. But, dude, Bill Belichick can't make up for this roster that he has right now. This is a nothing roster. They got nothing. Now, Bill can flip this around. I don't put it past them. But on paper and logically, he is a loser this free agency because they ain't do nothing. They ain't getting nobody. And all they did was lose on all sides of the ball. So, yeah, Bill Belichick is a loser as of now. He can be a winner later. But right now, it's kind of up to Bill Belichick to have a good draft for this team to be good next year. And LOL, has he ever had a good draft? He's not a good drafter. He's not a great drafter, but, you know, we'll see what happens there. I'll probably be wrong. Who knows? The next loser is Texans fans because y'all don't deserve what this moron Bill O'Brien is putting you guys through. And this is the example I bring up because people will talk to the death about the problems and why analytics doesn't work and why analytics guys can't be in the NFL and all that. And they have some points, right? There is some negatives to having an analytics run front office. I agree. There are some downsides, but there's also some positives. And there's also downsides to having football guys. Nobody ever talks about the downsides of hiring football guys. And this is the biggest downside because when you hire football guys, you can sometimes get an abundance of dumb. And this is exactly what happened with Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins. This is stupid. This is avoidable. This is ego run to the max. It's Bill O'Brien deciding he don't like how DeAndre Hopkins lives his life and how he goes about his business. So he's going to trade his best player because Bill O'Brien thinks the show's about him. It's not about Deshaun Watson throwing to one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, despite having a terrible offensive line. No, he's going to take away the best wide receiver from his already injury-ridden and struggling quarterback because his offensive line is bad, not because the quarterback's bad, but because he has a bad offensive line. He's going to take away the one weapon and say, hey, here's an injury-prone running back in David Johnson who's played like 7 games in the last 2 years. What is going on there? And I don't even have to wait for an answer from Bill O'Brien to figure out what's going on. Football guy stuff. This is where football guys go bad. As good as you can do with football guys, same with analytics, they have their downsides, and this is where football guys go wrong because their ego gets insane and they believe that the show is about them and not the dudes that get paid millions of dollars to be good at the actual sport. This is the downside of football guys. This is the ego. Houston fans are honestly getting the shaft in 3 sports right now. They have a team that looked good with their small ball lineup in Houston Rockets that, the season's probably going to get canceled for an NBA, so who knows what's going to happen there. Russell Westbrook's only going to get a year older, that's a wash. You got the Houston Astros cheating the entire MLB, and since you're a Houston Astros fan, you have to defend the cheaters. That's a raw deal. And then you got the Houston Texans just being stupid. I feel for Houston sports fans. You don't deserve this. Oh, and by the way, Bill O'Brien gave Eric Murray, who was one of the least consequential and probably most mediocre defensive backs on the Browns roster last year, they gave him 3 years, $18 million. I don't know what's going on there, but it's stupid. The next loser is the quarterback market, because look at the names that are available that there is almost no interest in. Cam Newton, Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston. There was a time where Sam Bradford could get traded for like a second-round pick after all of his injuries. After them. The name Sam Bradford and just being a decent enough quarterback was enough. Cam Newton hit the trade market and nobody wanted him. Andy Dalton is on the trade market and nobody wants him. Jameis Winston is a free agent and nobody wants him. Those 3 are all better than Sam Bradford has ever been in his career. Ever, and more consistent. But they can't find a job. And that's simply because for a while, the quarterback market was a desperate market. There were only 10 or 15 of these guys who could play at a competent level. So when one came available, you had to overpay. But what we're seeing is a flattening of that market. There are more quarterbacks that can just play the game. Gardner Minshew can play as well as any other mediocre quarterback. Nick Foles is out there. Mitchell Trubisky is eventually going to be out there. There's a lot of names that are going to be out there that are good enough to, be 8-8 with. Sure, the guys like Dak Prescott, the guys like Patrick Mahomes, who are, up there at that elite level for Dak and clearly in the elite level in Patrick Mahomes, they're going to get paid. They're going to get paid a ton of money because those guys are still rare. The Kirk Cousins, the Andy Dalton class quarterback took a major L this offseason because their value has plummeted tremendously. They're just not that rare anymore. These aren't the days where a guy like Mike Glennon's going to get signed for millions upon millions of guaranteed dollars because he's not that valuable anymore. Quarterback play has gotten better along the NFL. A lot of teams have decent enough quarterback play. It's not the plague that it used to be. So the quarterback market has suffered because there's less scarcity. The Jaguars are the last loser of the day, but they only are kind of winners because the Houston Texans win all Houston Texan. But the Jaguars, they traded A.J. Boye, dumb move. They traded Calais Campbell for nothing to the Baltimore Ravens of all team. That's dumb. And then they got rid of Nick Foles, which is a good thing. They got rid of Nick Foles, but they tagged Ngakoue. They signed Schobert to way too much money. They signed Darqueze Dennard to way too much money. And they're sending mixed signals. Are they trying to win right now, or are they trying to lose and gain draft picks? What are they trying to do? They are directionally confused. And like I said with the Raiders last season, who were also directionally confused, there's only one place where directionally confused ends up, and that is mediocre. That is not in the playoffs. That is 5-11 to 8-8 or 8-9, however many games they're going to play this season. That's where you end up when you're directionally confused. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are woefully directionally confused. A team that was in the AFC Championship not too long ago, not directionally confused, just traded away all their best players. No more Jalen Ramsey, gone. No more A.J. Boye, gone. No more Calais Campbell, gone. What's here to replace them? Joe Schobert, who's a better than average linebacker, but not a difference maker. Darqueze Dennard, who is a average corner, if not below average in some areas. And Ngakoue, who's all right, but, he ain't going to change the needle. So they're directionally confused. They don't know what they want to do. They got rid of all their difference makers, the Jalen Ramseys of the world. And, they brought in a bunch of dudes who are supposed to be there to compete, but what's the direction? They don't know. It's bad. And that's my thoughts on the 2020 free agency class. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think there's a winner that I missed? Do you think there's a loser that I missed? Let me know down there below. But thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. But again, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.